I need you to listen to me very carefully, because what I am about to tell you is something I have never spoken out loud to anyone. Not to my wife, not to my brother, not even to the therapist I started seeing after everything fell apart. But I cannot keep this inside anymore. It is eating me alive. And if even one person hears this and understands why I quit the best paying job I ever had, why I sold my apartment and moved 3 states away, why I still cannot look out of a window above the 3rd floor without my hands going completely numb, then maybe telling this story is worth it. My name does not matter. What matters is that for 4 years I washed windows on skyscrapers, and on one particular building, on one particular floor, I saw something that completely rewired my brain. Something that made me understand, in the most visceral and terrifying way possible, that there are things happening behind glass, high above the city, that were never meant for human eyes. So stay with me, because this story does not get less disturbing. It gets worse. Every single layer of it gets worse. I get into window washing because of my uncle. He runs a small commercial cleaning company in the Midwest. And when I am 23 years old, broke, and freshly dropped out of college, he offers me a job. Not the glamorous indoor stuff, the outside work, the rigging, the ropes, the scaffolding, the swing stages. The stuff most people take one look at and immediately say no to. But I say yes because the pay is almost 3 times what I am making at the restaurant I am working at. And because some part of me, the reckless 23-year-old part, thinks dangling off the side of a building sounds almost thrilling. The training is intense. 3 weeks of safety certification, equipment checks, rigging protocols. My uncle is serious about this. He has been doing it for 22 years and never lost a man. And he tells me that record is worth more to him than any contract. You learn very quickly that window washing at height is not about bravery. It is about routine. You check your equipment the same way every single morning. You communicate constantly with your ground crew. You never, ever deviate from the protocol. The moment you start cutting corners is the moment the job kills you. That lesson sits in my chest like a stone from day one. For the first 2 years, I work on mid-rise buildings, office complexes, hotels, apartment hours in the 15 to 30 floor range. It is repetitive work, but I settle into it. There is something almost meditative about it. You are suspended in silence above the noise of the city, moving across glass with your squeegee, watching the world from an angle almost nobody ever sees. You see things through those windows. Boring things, mostly. People at desks, staring at computers. Conference rooms full of suits who all look slightly miserable. Empty break rooms with terrible fluorescent lighting. Occasionally something mildly interesting. A couple arguing. Someone sleeping at their desk. A guy who microwaves fish every single day at noon and clearly does not understand why his co-workers hate him. But nothing that ever really stays with you. Nothing that keeps you up at night. Then I get transferred to the high-rise division. Buildings over 50 floors. The pay jumps significantly. The equipment is more specialized. The protocols are stricter. And the silence up there is different. Thicker, more complete. When you are washing windows on the 47th floor of a glass tower, you are in a world that does not quite belong to the city below. The wind behaves differently. The light behaves differently. And the windows, the things you see through them, start to feel different too. I am assigned to a building on the east side of the city. 63 floors. Mixed use, mostly corporate offices on the lower floors, private residences on the upper ones. The contract is a big one. Full exterior cleaning twice a year, spot cleans as needed. My partner on this job is a guy named Darnell, who has been doing high-rise work for 11 years and who I genuinely like. Darnell is calm, methodical, funny in a dry way, and completely unflappable. He is exactly the kind of person you want beside you when you are 60 floors up. We start from the top and work our way down, which is standard. The upper floors of this building are residential, and residential floors on high-rises have their own particular rhythm. Most of the time the apartments are empty during the day. Professionals who work downtown, wealthy retirees who are out at brunch or at the club or wherever wealthy retirees go. Occasionally you will see someone home, an older person reading near the window, a dog sitting on the inside watching you with bewildered curiosity. Once, memorably, a man in a very expensive-looking robe who does not seem at all bothered by two men hanging outside his 70-foot-high window, eating their lunch on their swing stage. He just waves and goes back to his newspaper. The rules for residential floors are specific, and our supervisor goes over them before we start the contract. You do not linger. You clean the glass and you move on. If a resident is visible inside and appears distressed or is signaling to you, you report it immediately to the ground crew via radio. You do not attempt to communicate directly with residents through the glass. You do not take photographs. You do not stare into the units. Clean the glass, move on. It sounds simple. It should be simple. Flat 51 is where things first start to feel wrong. It is a Tuesday morning in early October, and Darnell and I are working the north face of the building on the 51st floor. The apartment on this side has floor-to-ceiling windows, which is common in this building. The kind of windows that must feel extraordinary from inside, like living inside the sky. But from outside, from where we are, they are just large panes of glass that need cleaning. The unit appears empty. Lights off inside, which makes it harder to see clearly through the glass because the reflective quality of the window shifts. But I can see enough. A living room, nice furniture, a large sectional sofa in a deep charcoal colour, a coffee table with a few books on it, nothing out of place. I start my pass with the squeegee, and that is when I notice the figure. It is standing in the far corner of the room, just standing there, in the dark. Not moving. I stop. I am not immediately alarmed. People do strange things. Maybe someone is home, and they just haven't turned any lights on. Maybe they are doing some kind of mindfulness exercise. Standing in the dark in the corner of your living room is weird, but it is not impossible. I go back to my work, squeegee pass, detail the edges, move on. But as I slide across to the next pane, I glance back, and the figure has moved. It is no longer in the corner. It is now standing directly on the other side of the glass, about 3 feet back, facing me. Just standing, just watching. Face completely in shadow because the lights are still off. I tap Darnell on the shoulder. He looks. He looks for a long moment without saying anything. Resident must be home, he says finally. Why are all the lights off? I say. Darnell shrugs, but I can tell from the slight tension in his jaw that it bothers him too. Some people like the dark, he says, and we move on. But I keep thinking about the way it moved. Not the way a person casually shifts position. It was already standing in the middle of the room when I looked back. No transition, just there. I tell myself I missed it. I tell myself I was focused on the glass and not watching closely enough to see it move from the corner to the center. That is the only explanation that makes sense. So I hold on to that and I keep working. 2 weeks later, I am back on 51. This time I am alone. Darnell has a family thing and calls out, and the job is on a tight schedule, so I go up solo, which is permitted as long as you have ground crew in radio contact. The protocol is clear. Check in every 30 minutes. Any anomaly, you report immediately. The north face, the same unit. This time it is a grey morning, overcast, which means the windows are even more reflective. It is harder to see inside. I am focused on the work, trying to get clean passes on glass that is showing water streaks from the previous day's rain, and I almost miss it entirely. Almost there is writing on the inside of the glass, not something I can see clearly at first. A smudge, I think, a condensation pattern. But as I squeegee the exterior and the reflection shifts slightly, I can read it, written in what looks like condensation from the inside. Like someone breathed on the glass and traced letters with their finger. 3 words, don't come back. I am 51 floors up, alone on a swing stage, and every hair on my body is standing straight up. I radio my ground crew immediately. I describe what I am seeing. They patch in my supervisor. He tells me to finish the floor and come down, and we will figure out what to do. He uses a very calm, very deliberate voice that makes me feel slightly better. I finish the floor. Fast. The fastest I have ever worked. I do not look through the glass again. I stare only at the surface I am cleaning, and I do not let my eyes drift to what is behind it. When I come down and tell my supervisor exactly what I saw, he looks at me for a long moment and then calls the building manager. The building manager confirms that Unit 51 North has been vacant for 8 months. The last tenant moved out following a personal situation that the manager declines to elaborate on. No one has been in the unit. No maintenance work has been scheduled there. He offers to go up and check the unit with us. We go up via the interior elevator. The building manager has a key. He unlocks the door and opens it, and the 3 of us stand there in the hallway and look inside. The apartment is completely empty. No furniture, no sectional sofa, no coffee table with books. Just bare floors and bare walls and the kind of stillness that seems almost physical. And on the floor-to-ceiling window on the north face, the words are still there. Don't come back, written in something that has dried, something that is not condensation. I put in for a reassignment the next morning. My supervisor does not argue. He moves me to a contract on the other side of the city, and he never brings it up again, and neither do I. Until now, story number 2. I want you to understand something before I tell you this next one. I am a practical person. I always have been. I grew up in a household where my father's answer to almost everything was mechanical. Something breaks, you find out why, you fix it. Something scares you, you find the rational explanation, and you hold on to it. That is the framework I carry with me into every situation. So when I tell you that what happened on the Hargrove building on the 44th floor made me genuinely question the structural integrity of reality as I understand it, I need you to know that I am not a person who says that kind of thing easily. I need you to know that I spent weeks trying to find the practical explanation. I ran it through every rational filter I have, and I still cannot explain it. I still cannot close this drawer. So I am going to tell you exactly what happened, in the exact order that it happened, and you can decide what to do with it. The Hargrove building is a 50-story corporate tower that I start working on in the 3rd year of my career. It is predominantly office space. Law firms and financial companies on the lower floors, a private equity firm that takes up floors 40 through 46, and a small number of executive suites on the upper floors. I am part of a 4-person crew for this one. Me, Darnell, a woman named Priya, who has been in the industry longer than any of us, and who is absolutely the most skilled window washer I have ever seen, and a newer guy named Carl, who is still getting his high-rise legs. The private equity firm on 40 through 46 is unusual from the start. The first thing we notice is that their floors are blacked out. Not darkened, not using privacy film, but fully blacked out windows. This is not unheard of in corporate environments. Some companies do it for privacy, or for screen glare reduction, or for aesthetic reasons. But it means we are cleaning opaque glass. We cannot see inside at all. We are just cleaning dark mirrors. It is a strange feeling, like washing the windows of a room that does not exist. The firm has specific requirements listed in the contract. They specify exactly which days we are permitted to work on their floors. They specify the hours, 7 to 9 a.m. only, no exceptions. If we are still on their floors after 9 a.m., we will be in breach of contract and the job will be terminated. My supervisor thinks it is eccentric but not concerning. Corporations have all kinds of strange requirements. We comply. The first 4 floors of the firm space, 40 through 43, we complete over 2 morning sessions without incident. The blackout glass is clean, work is straightforward. We are done well before 9. 44 is scheduled for the 3rd morning. We get up there at 7 sharp. 4 of us on a wide swing stage, positioned on the east face of the building. I am on the far left. Darnell is next to me. Priya and Carl on the right. The windows here are the same blackout glass as the floors below. I start my section. About 12 minutes in, Darnell grabs my arm. He does not say anything at first. He just grabs my arm and I follow his eyes to the window in front of him. The blackout film has a small section, maybe 8 by 8 inches, near the lower corner of one pane, where it has peeled away or was never fully applied. Just a small gap in the opacity. And through that gap, Darnell can see inside. I lean over and look through it with him. The office inside is large and open plan. Long rows of desks, all facing the same direction, toward the east-facing windows where we are hanging. And at every single desk, there is a person sitting. Dozens of them. They are all wearing the same thing. White-collared shirts, dark trousers. They are all sitting in the same posture. Perfectly upright, hands flat on the desk in front of them. They are all facing us, not facing their computer screens, not doing any kind of work. Every single person in that office is sitting perfectly still, hands on the desk, staring directly at the windows, directly at us. Nobody is moving. Nobody is talking. Nobody is looking at a phone or a paper or anything. They are just sitting there, all of them, staring. Priya sees us both stopped, and she leans over. She looks through the gap. She pulls back immediately, and her face does something I have never seen it do before. She looks scared. "We need to go," she says. "We've got work to finish." Carl starts. "We need to go right now," she says, and the way she says it makes Carl stop arguing. We radio the ground crew and tell them we are coming down early. My supervisor asks why. Priya gets on the radio and says only that there is a safety concern and we are descending. He knows better than to argue with Priya. We come down. We are standing on the sidewalk outside the building, and the 4 of us just look at each other for a moment. Priya is the first to speak. There were at least 60 people in there, she says, all sitting the exact same way, all staring at the window. It's an office, Carl says. Maybe they were having a meeting, and the windows are where they project or something. There was nothing on the windows, Darnell says. No projection screen. No screen at all. They were just looking at the glass. My supervisor calls the building manager, same as before. The building manager says he will check with the firm's facilities contact. He calls back 40 minutes later. He sounds strange. Careful with his words. He tells us that according to the facilities contact, floor 44 was empty that morning. The company's staff does not begin arriving until 9:30. There was no one on floor 44 during our working window of 7 to 9 a.m. We do not go back to the Hargrove building. My supervisor pulls us from the contract. He says something came up with the scheduling, but I know better. And every single one of us knows better. And none of us ever talks about the 60 people who were not there. Story number 3. Pull in close for this one, because I am going to tell you about the only time in my entire career that I broke the rules. And I am going to tell you exactly what it cost me. Not in any metaphorical sense, in a very real, very specific sense, something I cannot get back. So listen, I am in my 4th year. I have worked hundreds of high-rise jobs by now. I have developed the thick skin of a person who has seen enough weird things at height to know that you file them away. You keep your mouth shut and you keep working. You do not engage with the weird things. You do not investigate the weird things. You do the job and you go home and you pour yourself something strong and you watch television until your brain quiets down. That is the system. I am working solo on a Thursday afternoon on a building I will call the Callaway Tower. 38 floors, mostly residential. I am covering the south face. Floors 29 through 35, spot cleaning a section that had some mineral deposit build-up from a recent HVAC issue. Straightforward job. 2, maybe 3 hours. Floor 32, south-facing unit, the apartment appears lived in. Plants on the windowsill. A cat tree in the corner. A television on with the sound obviously off from my perspective, but I can see it playing some kind of cooking show. All the markers of a normal, inhabited apartment. And lying on the couch, facing the windows, is a woman. She is young. Late 20s, early 30s maybe. She is lying very still, and at first I assume she is asleep. But her eyes are open. She is looking directly at me. I glance at her and then look away and keep working, because that is protocol. Acknowledge, move on. But as I work across the pane in front of her window, something about the way she is lying makes the back of my neck go tight. She is too still, not asleep still. Something else. I look again. She has not moved at all, not a single muscle. Eyes open, staring at me, but with this quality to her gaze that I can only describe as absent. Like the lights are on, but the building is empty. Now my brain starts doing the thing it has been trained not to do. It starts running scenarios. She is sick. She has fallen and cannot move. She is having some kind of medical emergency. She is looking directly at me, and I am literally the only person who can see her right now. Hanging outside her window, 32 floors up. I break the rule. I knock on the glass. She blinks. She turns her head slowly and looks at me. Really looks at me this time. And then she sits up, slowly, and she walks to the window. And she puts her hand flat against the glass. I put my hand up on my side of the glass. A stupid, instinctive gesture. We are separated by about an inch of tempered glass and 32 floors of empty air. and she mouths something. I am pretty good at reading lips from years of communicating through glass with people inside buildings. I watch her lips carefully. She says, "He's still in here with me." I go cold all the way down to my feet. I look around the apartment, the visible parts of it, the living room, the slice of hallway I can see through the interior door that is standing half open. I see no one else. The apartment looks empty except for her. I get on my radio and I say I need to call a wellness check on a resident on the south face of 32. I give the unit descriptor. I describe what I saw. Ground crew patches in my supervisor, who patches in the building. I am told to sit tight. It takes 11 minutes for the building's security officer to arrive at her floor. I know because I watch the door of her unit from my position outside the glass. I see the door open from inside before security even gets there. She opens it herself. She speaks with the security officer for several minutes. Then security comes to the window and gives me a thumbs up. I come down. The security officer meets me on the ground. He tells me the resident is fine, that she confirmed she is alone in the apartment, that she did not signal me, that she was sleeping on her couch when she was startled by knocking on her window. He gives me a look that makes it very clear he thinks I am either an idiot or making something up. But here is the thing. Here is the thing that I have turned over in my mind every single day since it happened. When I pack up my gear and walk around to the south side of the building to retrieve a piece of equipment, I look up at the 32nd floor south face. There is a figure standing at the window of that unit, not the woman. This figure is taller, dark clothing, just standing there at the glass looking down at me. I stand there on the sidewalk looking up at it for what feels like a very long time. Then I get in my van and I drive home, and I do not stop driving until I am in my own driveway and my hands will stop shaking. I never find out who or what was in that apartment. I never go back to Callaway Tower. And some nights, when I am half asleep, I wonder if the woman I saw is still there. If she is still lying on that couch, looking out at a window that no one is cleaning anymore. Waiting for someone to knock. Story number 4. There is a particular kind of dread that belongs specifically to repetition. Not the shock of a single terrible moment, but the slow accumulation of small wrong things that add up, day after day, to something that becomes genuinely unbearable. That is what floor 60 of the Meridian building does to me. Not one big horror, a slow drip. A pattern that takes weeks to fully reveal itself. And by the time I understand what the pattern is, by the time I can see it clearly, I am already in too deep to look away. The Meridian is a 62-floor mixed-use tower, and I start the contract in late spring of my 3rd year. My partner is Darnell again, and we are working the exterior twice a week on a rotating face schedule. Monday and Wednesday mornings, south and east faces. Thursday afternoons, north and west. We are doing this for an initial 6-week run, and then transitioning to monthly maintenance. The first time I notice the woman on floor 60, it is a Wednesday. South face. The unit on the south side of 60 is a large corner apartment, one of the premium units in the building. Huge windows. The kind of apartment you see in architecture magazines. Pale wood floors, minimalist furniture in shades of white and grey, a wall of built-in bookshelves. Very designed, very intentional. The kind of place that looks like someone hired a very good interior designer and then never really lived in it. The woman is standing at the far end of the living room when I first see her, older, maybe 65 to 70. White hair, very precisely kept. She is wearing a dark cardigan and standing very straight. She is looking out the window, not at me specifically, but out at the sky, the city. Whatever is out there from 60 floors up, I note her presence and move on. That is the job. Second Wednesday, I am back on the south face of 60. The woman is there again. Same position, same cardigan. Standing at the far end of the room, looking out. This time I notice that she is not just looking out. She appears to be counting. Her lips are moving, very slowly, in a pattern that looks like numbers. I have no idea what she is counting. I move on. Third Wednesday, she is there. Same place, same posture, same slow lip movements. Now I start to pay attention. Over the following weeks, I develop an unofficial log in my head. Every time we hit floor 60 south face, the woman is there, always standing, always in the same spot, always doing the same slow lip count. She never sits, she never walks around the apartment. She never appears to be doing anything else, just standing, just counting. I start noticing other things too. The apartment, which always looks so pristine and designed, never shows any signs of being truly lived in. No dishes on the counter. No shoes by the door visible through the interior archway. No jackets or bags or any of the small debris of daily life. It looks exactly the same every single visit, like a stage set. On the 5th week, I say something to Darnell. I describe the pattern. He listens without expression, which is very Darnell. Old building, lots of older residents, he says. Some people have routines. Same spot every time, I say. Same cardigan. She's never sat down. Not once. Maybe she likes standing, he says. But I catch him looking through the glass on the next pass, and I catch the very subtle shift in his expression when he sees her there, in her spot, counting. It is on the 6th week, our last week of the initial 6-week contract, that the pattern breaks. I am on the south face of 60, midway through my section, when I realize I have not seen her yet. The apartment looks the same as always, empty of living detail, perfectly staged, but her spot at the far end of the room is empty. I feel a strange, irrational relief. And then I feel something else, movement in my peripheral vision. She is not at the far end of the room. She is at the window, 3 inches from the glass, face so close to the surface that I can see the slight fog of her breath, and she is looking directly at me, not at the sky, not at the city, at me. Those eyes, pale and absolutely steady, are locked directly onto my face, and she is still counting. Her lips are still moving, but now she is pressing one finger against the glass, and she is pointing it downward, toward the street 60 floors below, and she moves it in a slow arc as her lips count. And I realize, with a cold dropping feeling in my stomach, that she is counting something on the street, something down there. I do not look down. I know in some deep animal part of myself that I must not look down. I finish my section. I keep my eyes on the glass surface. I do not look at her again. I do not look down at the street. When we come down, Darnell and I are packing up the gear, and Darnell says, very quietly, without looking at me, "What was she pointing at?" "I don't know," I say. We never look it up. We never discuss it again. But on some nights, when I cannot sleep, I think about the thing on the street that she was counting. I think about whatever it was that was so important to track, so important to count, every single Wednesday morning from 60 floors up. And I think about the fact that whatever she was counting, she wanted me to know it was there. She wanted me to look down. And I am so profoundly grateful that I did not. Story number 5. If you are still here, I want to say something to you first. I know that some of what I have been telling you is hard to sit with. I know that some part of your rational mind is looking for the exits, the explanations, the comfortable logical frameworks. I felt the same way about everything I just told you for a long, long time. But this next one, this one is the one that removed every last shred of comfort I had managed to cling on to. This is the one that made me quit. And I am going to tell you every detail of it, because you deserve to understand, if you are going to spend your time listening to me, exactly what it is that can happen when you spend enough time looking through glass that was never meant to be looked through. The building does not have a public name. It is a private residential tower in a part of the city that caters to extreme wealth. 48 floors, approximately 90 units in total. I am part of a very small, specifically contracted crew for this job, 3 people including me, and we are required to sign an NDA before we even see the building's address. This is not unusual for high-end residential properties. Wealthy people like their privacy. We sign it and show up. The security protocols for this building are unlike anything I have encountered in 4 years of high-rise work. Ground floor access requires a badge scan and a verbal confirmation with a guard. All windows on the first 12 floors are triple pane with additional security glass, and we are told not to apply any pressure beyond standard cleaning technique, or we will void the building's insurance. Our equipment is inspected before we rig. Every session is monitored by a building security representative via radio. I am going to be honest with you. All of this made me feel safe. All of this extreme caution and protocol gave me the impression that this was a building full of careful, responsible, security-minded people who had thought of everything. It gave me the impression that I was protected. I was wrong. It is the 4th week of the contract. I am working the east face with my crew partner, a man named Gerald who has 20 years in the industry and who I trust completely. We are on floor 37. The apartment on this face of 37 is a standard 2-bedroom layout for the building, which means it is still enormous by any normal measure. Open plan living space, 2 full bathrooms visible from our position, a study off to the right side. All the lights are on, which is unusual for mid-morning when most residents are out, but not concerning. I am cleaning the rightmost pane, adjacent to what appears to be the study, when I look through the glass and see the room inside, and I see what is hanging on the walls. Every wall of the study is covered in photographs, floor to ceiling, overlapping, layered, densely packed photographs. I cannot make out the subjects clearly from my position, but the sheer volume of them is staggering. Hundreds, maybe more. And in the center of the room, facing the window, facing me, is a man. He is sitting in a high-backed chair. He looks to be in his 50s or 60s, well-dressed, calm. And he is holding a photograph in both hands, looking at it, and then he looks up at me. He does not startle. He does not look surprised to see a man hanging outside his 37th floor window. He simply looks at me with an expression of complete, unreadable calm. And then he holds up the photograph he is holding, holds it up so I can see it through the glass. It is a photograph of our swing stage. Our specific swing stage, the one Gerald and I are currently standing on, taken from above, which means taken from a higher floor of the same building. It shows the 2 of us from above, clearly, working on a lower floor. It was taken on a previous day, because I can see from the section of building visible in the image that we were on floor 31 when this picture was taken. Someone in this building has been photographing us from above without our knowledge. And this man is showing me the photograph through the glass of his study window on the same day from floor 37 while we are right here. Gerald has not seen this yet. I tap his shoulder, I point. He looks through the glass at the man, at the photograph. He gets on the radio immediately. He tells the building security representative, very calmly, very precisely, that we have a situation on floor 37 East and we need to come down. The representative on the radio does not respond immediately. There is a pause that lasts about 4 seconds, which does not sound long but feels, when you are 37 floors up and something is very wrong, like a very long time. Then the representative says, "Come down immediately. Do not engage with the resident." We come down. At the ground level, the security representative is waiting for us. He is a large man, and he has that careful, neutral expression of someone who has been trained extensively in revealing nothing. He asks us to describe exactly what we saw. We describe it. He writes something down. He tells us that the resident of 37 East has special accommodations with the building that he is not at liberty to discuss. He tells us that our contract will be adjusted to exclude that unit from our cleaning schedule. He tells us that we are not to discuss what we observed with anyone outside of this conversation. He looks at me specifically when he says that last part. I ask him who had been photographing from the upper floors. He looks at me for a long moment. Just looks at me. Then he says, "Thank you for your cooperation." And he walks back into the building. I stand on the sidewalk outside this very expensive, very secure, very protocol-heavy building, and I feel the precise sensation of understanding that safety is a story we tell ourselves, that there are things happening behind those walls, behind that glass, that the protocols are designed not to prevent but to contain, to keep inside, to keep away from people like me. I quit the next day. I hand in my equipment, I collect my last paycheck, and I walk away from the best paying work I have ever done, and I drive until the skyline of that city is no longer visible in my rear view mirror. Story number 6. This is the last one, and I debated whether to tell it at all, because unlike the others, this one does not have any ambiguity. There is no rational alternative explanation I can offer you. There is no possible way to make this comfortable. So I am just going to tell it plainly, and I am going to let you sit with it the way I have been sitting with it. This happens 6 months before I quit, before the man with the photographs, at a time when I still believe that the strange things I have encountered are anomalies, outliers, statistical noise in an otherwise explicable world. I am working a solo job on a building I do not even have a full contract with. It is a one-day spot clean on a mid-rise 22 floors, office building, no residential units. I am the only crew member, ground contact only. A completely routine job that I expect to have done by 2 in the afternoon. Floors 1 through 18 I do without incident. Clean glass, empty offices, the normal low-level weirdness of empty workspaces. I am making good time. I am thinking about what I want for dinner. I am listening to a podcast through one earbud while I work, because after 4 years this is so routine, I can do it while half my attention is elsewhere. 19th floor, west face. I pull my earbud out. The reason I pull my earbud out is that I hear something from inside the building, from behind the glass of the 19th floor, west face office space. I hear someone talking, not a conversation, one voice, speaking in a steady, continuous way, the kind of cadence that is either a lecture or a recitation. I cannot make out the words. The glass and the height and the wind mute it to near nothing. But the cadence is there, steady, rhythmic, not emotional, flat. I look through the glass. The office is empty. Open plan, desks in rows, computers all in screensaver or sleep mode. The kind of visual silence that means nobody has been here for at least a few hours. Every desk is unoccupied. The lights are on the low automatic setting, which means no motion has been detected for a while. But the voice continues. I move laterally across the face of the building, trying to locate the source. The voice gets slightly louder as I reach the section of glass nearest to what appears to be a conference room on the interior. The conference room has glass walls, which means I can see through the outer window, through the conference room's glass walls, into the room itself. There is no one in the conference room, but there is something on the conference room table, a phone, a single cell phone lying face up on the table, and the voice is coming from it. Someone on the other end of a call, speaking to an empty room, speaking to a phone lying alone on a table in a conference room on the 19th floor of an empty building, speaking in a rhythm so steady and so continuous that my brain makes an association I do not want to make. That sounds like a countdown, or a count up, the endless mechanical recording of numbers in sequence. I stare at that phone for a very long time, and then, as I watch, the phone screen lights up, not with an incoming call, with an outgoing one. The display changes to show it is calling someone, and after a moment it connects, and the voice on the other end of that new call, from the phone on the table in the empty conference room on the 19th floor, comes through the glass, faint but absolutely unmistakable. It is my name, not my work name, not the name on my employee badge, my full name, the one that only people who know me personally would know. I am on a swing stage at the 19th floor of a building I have never been to before, connected to no one inside, and a phone on a table in an empty room just called someone who said my name. I do not remember how I got down. I have a gap of about 20 minutes that my brain has simply refused to record. The next thing I clearly remember is sitting in my van in the parking structure 2 blocks away, my hands on the wheel, the engine off, and the deep, bone-level understanding that whatever has been looking back at me through all of that glass, across all of those floors, across all of those years, has known my name for a very long time. I do not know what it wants. I do not know what any of it wants. But I have made myself a promise, and I have kept it every single day since I walked away from that job, since I left that city, since I stopped going anywhere near a building taller than 3 floors. I do not look through high windows anymore, and I live with the strong, persistent, deeply unsettling suspicion that whatever is on the other side of that glass does not need me to look. It already knows exactly where I am. Sleep well tonight.